Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name is Greg Knapp, and I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. You can go to The Chad Show to get in. You can go 844-DIG-CHAD online, 844-DIG-CHAD. Got a ton to get into. Of course, we've got to talk about what's going on with all this rhetoric around the killings in El Paso and the killings in Dayton, Ohio. We're not going to get into all of the really depressing stuff about the people who were killed. You've been talking about that for days. I'm sure you're as depressed and worn out about it as I am. It's a horrific situation. But what happens next? And here we go with the knee-jerk reactions again. And the very people that are saying that President Trump is responsible for El Paso are using some of the most hateful rhetoric I've ever heard in politics. I mean, has any president been called more names than this president? Has any president been blamed for more in a short period of time than this president? And been called every hate-filled name in the book. So let me ask you, after everything that's gone on in the last 3 days, if somebody tries to kill President Trump, is it the fault of any of these Democrats or media members or celebrities on Twitter? Well, no, of course it wouldn't be. I mean, how could you even say that? I mean, just like Representative Scalise, who was shot by a Bernie Sanders supporter at that Republican baseball game. How dare you imply that it would have anything to do with anything that Bernie Sanders has ever said? I mean, when you're telling people that these evil corporations are trying to kill you and destroy the planet, and before you know it, we won't have a place to live anymore, let alone food to eat or medical care for our elderly, when you have advertisements of Paul Ryan pushing a grandmother off a cliff in a wheelchair, when you have Democratic ads that were run that said in previous election cycles, if you don't vote, another church gets burned. What do you expect? No, you can't say it that way. It's only one way. There's only one way to look at this. When you have the Dayton killer talking about how he's a socialist and a far leftist and was anti-police and pro-Antifa and pro-Sanders and pro-Warren and pro-extreme environmentalism. Oh, by the way, so was the El Paso killer, pro-environmentalism, and one of the reasons he was going after people coming into this country is because he thought we had too many people, we're going to destroy the planet. You just can't talk about that. Not allowed to talk about that. And listen, I'm being consistent. I don't think Trump is responsible for El Paso. I don't think Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are responsible for Dayton. I don't think Bernie Sanders is responsible for the guy that shot Representative Scalise at the Republican baseball game. I think the people who pull the trigger are responsible for their own actions. That's what I think. And I think you have a right to say what your political opinion is without being blamed for what a crazy person does who may happen to agree with part of what you say. All right? I mean, if you agree with Bernie Sanders that you really think that big corporations are evil and you go up and you kill the CEO of a company, does that mean Bernie Sanders is responsible for that? No. It means you're crazy. But there are a lot of people and a lot of members of the media and a lot of Democrats that are not being consistent at all. Didn't say anything about Bernie Sanders when one of his supporters shot Representative Scalise at the baseball game. But now it's all President Trump's fault for one crazy person in El Paso. How is that even remotely fair? And then we take it to the new level where Joaquin Castro, the twin brother of Julian Castro, and his campaign manager for president is out there tweeting about his own constituents donating to President Trump. People in his district who donated to President Trump's campaign for 2020, and he's outing them. And basically, you know, encouraging people, hey, these are the people who are fueling Trump's campaign of hate, as he puts it. And by doing that, what does he expect to happen? Why would you tweet that out? Sad to see so many San Antonians as 2019 maximum donors to Donald Trump. Their contributions are fueling a campaign of hate that labels Hispanic immigrants as invaders. Okay, first of all, that's not true. President Trump has not labeled Hispanic immigrants as invaders. What he labeled was the caravans of illegal aliens coming across as a type of invasion. That's what he said. So that's not even true. But why would you tweet out the names of 44 people in a graphic if you didn't want something to happen to them? And of course, something already is happening to a lot of these people. They're being harassed on Twitter. Some of their businesses, people are saying that they should boycott on Twitter, which is exactly what you knew was going to happen. So we're getting to a point now where if you support the President of the United States for re-election, you are going to be outed by Democrats, and they are going to claim that you are a racist, or you are a xenophobe, or you are a whatever because you support President Trump. It's right back to Hillary Clinton and her basket of deplorables gaffe during the last presidential election. And they didn't learn it then. They didn't learn it now. Shut up, you're a racist is not an argument, especially when you know you're not. You know, one of the guys that was outed in this by Joaquin Castro is the guy who donated to Joaquin Castro. Yeah, Fox News reporting Wayne Harwell is the owner of a local real estate development company, and his name was on this list that Castro tweeted out Monday. And he told Fox News in an interview on the phone that he donated money to Castro's congressional campaign, but he's not going to anymore. He said, yeah, you know what? I was also on a list of people that gave to Castro. And if he dislikes me enough that he wants to put my name out there against Trump, I'm not going to give him money. And the FEC filing does show that $1,000 was given to Castro's campaign by Wayne Harwell. And he said, yeah, I'm not going to do it anymore. He said, I'll tell you what, I totally reject this idea that somehow I'm part of a campaign of hate. He said, I think some of the Democratic rhetoric is more hateful than some of Trump's rhetoric. Oh, no, there's no way. There's no way that's true. I'm going to get you some of their rhetoric. You've got Congressman Gallego from Arizona saying Mitch McConnell has caused murders, has caused people to die. I'll get you the exact quote. He said, so here we're back to Harwell, who happened to donate to both Trump and Castro. I think some of the Democratic rhetoric is more hateful than some of Trump's rhetoric. I think the San Antonio community needs to take a real deep look at what Castro is doing. Why is he doing this? I hope his constituents remember this. And then there's Justin Herricks. He was on the list too. He said, I feel pretty good about what I've done and who I support. Everybody else is pretty open with what they believe in on the other side, so why can't I? What's the problem? Exactly. Well, what the Democrats want to do is they want to take this perception that they've been building, that Trump is a racist, and make that a fact. And they're doing a pretty good job. Most of the mainstream media now is basically going along with the idea that it's not an opinion that Trump is a racist, but that he is a racist. And then by guilt of association, anybody who donates to Trump must be a racist. And anybody in the Republican Party must be a racist. And surely you don't want to be a racist, so therefore you're going to vote for the Democrat. And, of course, the media is playing along with it. But you know what? This is how we ended up with Trump in the first place. Because the average person who knows they're not a racist and is tired of being called a racist starts to feel like the only thing they can do is to vote for the other side, whoever the other side is. And the other side right now on that presidential ticket is President Trump. I mean, the idea that it's okay for a congressperson to put out that kind of a tweet, including the names of regular citizens, not another politician, not somebody who is famous, but just a regular average citizen who wanted to participate in the process, to tweet out, sad to see so many San Antonians as 2019 maximum donors to Donald Trump. Their contributions are fueling a campaign of hate that labels Hispanic immigrants as invaders. I reject that outright, but his followers now, you're telling your followers, here are people that are part of a campaign of hate against Hispanics. What do you expect them to do? But no. Only President Trump has bad rhetoric. Yes. In fact, we've got some audio on this that I wanted to get to today because some of the stuff is pretty outrageous. So let's get a little bit in here where Willie Geist at MSNBC actually called out Joaquin Castro on this. Now, Joe Scarborough and Mika were defending Joaquin Castro. Oh, all this is public information. Anybody could get this. It's true. You can track all this down in the FEC, but people don't do that unless they're crazy. So instead, you have your own congressman tweeting out to you the names of these people with a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, we should do something. And so Willie Geist calls him out. Cut 8, please.
But, Congressman, as you look at this list, I know you said you didn't put their addresses out there. It's easy to find them. These people undoubtedly are already being harassed online or perhaps face-to-face in some cases. They could be. What do you say to those people this morning who said, I made a campaign donation, and now I'm going to be harassed? I'm going to have people protesting outside my business or perhaps even my home. What do you say to them? Do you want them to repent for their support for Donald Trump, or what do you want from them?
Well, the first thing is that I don't want anybody harassed or targeted.
But they will be because you put their names in public.
Look, that was not my intention.
But that's what will happen.
These things are public. No, what I would like for them to do is think twice about supporting a guy who is fueling hate in this country.
And do you agree? Do you
it's
agree in this,
information.
Congressman? Do you agree that in this culture, and believe me, I'm making no equivalency to what Donald Trump's doing. We're on the record on this show 3 hours a morning about the ads that they're putting up, about the rhetoric he uses. But if you agree that rhetoric can lead to incitement, even if it just triggers one person to do something terrible, does it give you any pause about putting these people's names out in public?
Well, Willie, they're already public. They're already out there.
There are 11 retirees and one homemaker who are not public.
Right. And this was already circulating. I shared it, so I didn't create the graphic.
Wow. I mean, don't you love that? And Mika was like, well, it's already public. And you could hear Scarborough in the back trying, what? So at least Willie Geist was like, wait a second, guys. This is not right. And it's not. Imagine if Trump tweeted out tomorrow the names of people who have maxed out their donations to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and said, sad that these people are supporting a woman who goes after our ICE workers with a campaign of hate and calls our detention centers concentration camps and says that, it may come a time where the only thing people can do is riot in the streets. It's sad that these people are donating to her. Then press would go nuts over that. And rightly so. But here we've got people in the press defending him. So at least Willie Geist stood up and said, wait a second, man. Wait a second. What did you really expect here? What was your intent? Oh, to make them think twice about it. Yeah. And why would they have to think twice about it? Because they're going to be harassed and intimidated. That's why. Nice. It's a nice little business you got here. Be awful to see if anything happened to it. No, but I don't mean anything. But I mean, just want you to think twice about some things. Right. Oh, man, we got a lot of audio on this. We got audio from the far left protesting Mitch McConnell at his house. We've got Nicole Wallace on MSNBC. Wait till you hear what she said. She's apologized. Yeah, kind of. We'll get to that. We got so much to get to. Even, did you know that President Trump is raising the flag on a certain date because it really means Heil Hitler? Wait, what? I'm telling you, man, this thing is getting nutso on steroids. 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad on The Chad Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where the sensible center hangs out. Hey, you! That doesn't mean you can put your feet up on the table.
You're despicable. This is Chad Benson.
And my name's Greg Knapp. I'm filling in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. Lots of ways for you to be a part of the broadcast. And you can chime in at 844-DIG-CHAD. That's the easiest way to tell everybody what you think. 844-DIG-CHAD. You can also go online to thechadshow.com. So we're talking about some of the rhetoric that's come out from the other side. Because they're trying to say that President Trump is this awful evil racist. Now, I will absolutely grant you that Trump does not use the language I would use. If you don't know me, my name is Greg Knapp. Find out more about me at gregorybknapp.com. It's not a political site. It's really about personal growth there, but there's a free gift for you there. But I am not a guy that loves everything Trump does. I think that some of his tweets are ridiculous. I think some of his rhetoric makes things worse instead of better. But I don't see the evidence that he's a racist. We'll get into that in a second. Because what about Charlottesville? Well, you're being told a lie about what he said about Charlottesville. What about saying that all these Hispanics are invaders? Well, that's not what he said. Okay, I mean, you got to look at what he actually said, because what happens is he says something. People in the media and the Democrats and the leftists and the celebrities, but I repeat myself, then come out and say that he said something almost what he said, but twist it so that it's 10 times worse. And then that becomes the shorthand for what he actually said. And then 3 weeks from then, that's what everybody thinks he actually said. It's kind of like what happened when you had Tina Fey on Saturday Night Live say that Sarah Palin said, "I can see Russia from my house." You realize she never said that. What she actually said was, "We're really close to Russia. There's an island in Alaska where you can actually see Russia from." That's fact. You really can. But instead it came, Sarah Palin said, "I can see Russia from my house." She never said it. But I bet you, 90% of Democrats would say, "Oh yeah, she said that." No, she didn't. But it doesn't matter, because the lie told often enough and long enough becomes the truth. And that's the whole deal. To get the perception that was started by the Democrats and the leftists and the media, but I repeat myself, that Trump is a racist, to become a fact. And that's the way that many in the media are already talking about it. And there is no fact there. So you get people like Nicole Wallace on MSNBC coming out and saying that President Trump was calling for exterminating Latinos. Oh, she's apologized, Greg. Well, kind of. We're going to get you that audio and a lot more, and what Trump really said in Charlottesville. It's all coming up. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson on The Chad Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name's Greg Knapp. I am in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on. 844-DIG-CHAD. You want to talk about rhetoric? There's a Hollywood movie that's coming out, and the plot of the movie is that rich elites fly to a 5-star resort on an island to hunt deplorables. And about a dozen Make America Great Again types wake up in a clearing and realize they're being stalked for sport by elite liberals, according to The Hollywood Reporter. It features guns blazing along with other ultra-violent killings as the elites pick off their prey. Now, ESPN has pulled a trailer for the film that was cleared to go on the network before what happened in El Paso and Dayton. But it's called The Hunt. It's billed as a satire. Characters in the film refer to the victims as deplorables. Of course, it's what Hillary Clinton called Trump supporters. One character, according to the Hollywood Reporter, says, "At least the hunt's coming up. Nothing better than going out to the manor and slaughtering a dozen deplorables." But remember, Trump's the one with the bad culture. Remember when George W. Bush was in office, there was a movie about the assassination of Bush. It was a low-budget thing. There was a book about assassinating President Bush. I don't remember those movies and books coming out for Democratic presidents from conservatives. But remember, they're all about tolerance and love. I mean, the hypocrisy is unbelievable. And then we go to Nicole Wallace, MSNBC. as I was telling you just a minute ago, she's on and talking with USA Today columnist Paul Reyes, and he was explaining, well, President Trump talked about an infestation. And, well, wait a second. I got the exact thing he said about infest. Because they made it sound, hang on a second, I had to go grab that. Yeah, they made it sound like he was saying, immigrants are infesting America. Here's what he said. Here was his tweet. Democrats are the problem. They don't care about crime and want illegal immigrants, no matter how bad they may be, to pour into and infest our country like MS-13. They can't win on their terrible policies, so they view them as potential voters. So he's talking about illegal aliens and talking about criminal illegal aliens, and he said the Democrats want them to pour into and infest our country like MS-13. And see, he talked about immigrants as infestation and infestation and extermination. So from that, you get cut one here of Nicole Wallace on MSNBC.
The last Republican president fought for, sought, and it's not ideal, but had 44% of Latino voters. It was so politically powerful inside the last Republican administration. President Obama used the power of the presidency to try to pass comprehensive immigration reform with the Latino community, Latino leaders at the table. You now have a president, as you said, talking about exterminating Latinos.
It's not even...
What? You now have a... play cut two. This is the short version.
You now have a president, as you said, talking about exterminating Latinos.
It's not even...
You don't. He has never said that. So finally, earlier today, Nicole Wallace comes out and apologizes for that, kind of. Sorry, not sorry. Quote from her Twitter feed. I misspoke about Trump calling for an extermination of Latinos. My mistake was unintentional, and I'm sorry. Trump's constant assault on people of color and his use of the word invasion to describe the flow of immigrants is intentional and constant. His constant assault on people of color? What? No. Trump has a constant assault on all his enemies. It doesn't matter if you're white like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. She's not white. She's a Native American. Right. Or whether you happen to be of color like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Elijah Cummings or Maxine Waters. But here's the thing. When you're upset at Trump, you're not a racist. But if you're upset at Obama, you're a racist. Why? Well, because Trump's orange and... I'm sorry. And Obama's white. Black. Oh, wait. Really? This is what we're doing? Yes, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing in 2019. And it's not just, like I said, pundits. You got Joaquin Castro outing Trump supporters. You've got people like Representative Ruben Gallego, Democrat Arizona. He's on with Anderson Cooper. And listen to what he says about Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Cut 7, please.
The one thing that's very consistent about Mitch McConnell, he could care less about anybody in this country except for himself and his donors. And he is the Grim Reaper. It's because of his actions that he's caused so many deaths in this country by stopping common sense gun reform laws from getting to the floor.
Wow. There's a congressman saying the Senate Majority Leader doesn't care about anybody except himself and his donors. Okay, factually inaccurate, but okay. But then he is the Grim Reaper. It's because of his actions that he's caused so many deaths in this country. So he's caused deaths. So he's a murderer. I didn't say murderer. You said he caused deaths. Well, that's not exactly murder, but yeah, okay, whatever. He caused deaths because he stopped what this guy called common sense gun laws. So because he stopped a ban on so-called assault weapons, which are nothing other than semi-automatic rifles, which, by the way, you realize that still today, adding up what happened over the weekend, more people are killed by hands and fists in America than by all rifles in America, including AR-15s. But no. It's all because, hey, if they didn't have an AR-15, they couldn't have used a different rifle. They couldn't have used a different handgun. They couldn't have driven a truck into a crowd of people. They couldn't have used dynamite. They couldn't have made a homemade bomb. They couldn't have burned a house down. They couldn't have, no. That would have stopped everything. And of course, we know, because we tried it for 10 years, that the ban on the so-called assault weapons did nothing to decrease mass shootings or murder in this country. Nothing. But this is the rhetoric. So if somebody now I don't know, maybe somebody goes to Mitch McConnell's house and does something. Is Congressman Gallego responsible? I mean, if you're saying that Mitch McConnell caused deaths, then is it really that far of a reach that maybe somebody unbalanced thinks they need to go take care of Mitch McConnell? Oh, wait. Some people did go to take care of Mitch McConnell. In fact, they went and protested outside of his house. Mitch McConnell is resting because he broke his shoulder from a fall, and sometimes he has trouble walking because he had polio as a kid. He's 77 years old. And so here are some of the people at Mitch McConnell's house. I hope, Phil, you had a chance to bleep out some of this. But let's start with cut 3 with the McConnell protesters.
We're at McConnell's house. This bitch think he's about to get some rest. Not if the children that you're kidnapping can't get any rest. Not if families who are getting murdered can't get any rest. Mitch! Ditch Mitch! Ditch Mitch! This is this bitch's house. He's in there nursing his little broken arm. He should have broke his little raggedy, wrinkled-ass neck.
Nice, huh? Yeah, so now Mitch is kidnapping children and murdering people. They had signs that said hashtag massacre Mitch. They had signs that said murder Turtle. Turtle's another one of his nicknames. I don't think they were calling to murder him. They're trying to say he was a murderer. I don't know, maybe. Well, and by the way, that woman that was yelling, according to some of the people in the media, they tracked down her Facebook page, and she's got pictures up with her hugging Elizabeth Warren. But, you know, we can't talk about that. Let's hear cut 4, some more McConnell protesters.
If we can't get no rest because of you, you won't get no rest because of us. If we can't get no rest because of you, you won't get no rest because of us. If we can't get no rest because of you, you won't get no rest because of us.
Come on, everybody. We definitely need to work on the education level of these protesters as well. But, you know, they're trying. So, but remember, we're all about love. We're all about tolerance. We're all about civility. They're not protesting at his office. They're protesting at his house. It's late at night. Of course he has neighbors. He's got a wife. Oh, they don't care about his wife either. They were saying F her. F her and F everybody else. Oh, yeah, there's more. Let's hear cut 5.
Mitch, we know you're home. Yo, Nick. Going on home. Must be nice to be able to afford it. No, must be nice to have health care. Everybody else can't fall down and get taken care of. Get time off of work. Thanks to you.
Well, I don't even need to comment on these, do I? And you want to go really crazy. Oh, wait, we may as well wrap this up. Last one, cut 6, please.
This hoe thought he was really getting ready to be at home. After he hurt his little funky ass shoulder. Don't nobody give a your thoughts and prayers, Mitch. You, your wife, everything you stand for. If we don't get no justice, you don't get no peace.
So there you go. So we have the right to come to your house and destroy your neighborhood and harass you and your family and threaten you, and because we disagree with you. Remember, that's the tolerant left. And let's wrap it up for right now with an MSNBC guest with Brian Williams. You remember Brian Williams kicked off the air from NBC for lying, and now back on MSNBC and paid to lie. So he's on. Greg, come on. It was a little joke. So he's got this guy on, contributor Frank Figliuzzi, who is a former FBI guy, and he starts talking about, hey, you know, there's white supremacy out here, and maybe President Trump isn't getting good enough advice and doesn't know his enemy, because you got to understand what's going on here. And here's cut 9.
The president's either getting really good advice and rejecting it, or he's getting really bad advice. And I'll give you an example of that. We have to understand the adversary and the threat we're dealing with. And if we don't understand how they think, we'll never understand how to counter them. So it's the little things and language and messaging that matters.
Oh, okay. So what kind of messaging are we talking about? Get out the tinfoil hat. Here's cut 10.
The president said that we will fly our flags at half-mast until August 8th. That's 8/8. Now, I'm not going to imply that he did this deliberately, but I am using it as an example of the ignorance of the adversary that's being demonstrated by the White House. The numbers 8-8 are very significant in neo-Nazi and white supremacy movement. Why? Because the letter H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and to them, the numbers 8-8 together stand for Heil Hitler. So we're going to be raising the flag back up at dusk on 8-8.
You get that? So either President Trump knows that, and he's doing that on purpose, or his people just aren't smart enough to know that that's important and that therefore he is wrong there too. So heads I win, tails you lose. You get it? Are you kidding me? And Brian Williams didn't say, dude, seriously? That's crazy. No. Instead, Brian Williams followed up, as chilling as that is to hear. You're saying it's possible that someone who knows better is authoring or editing the words that show up and are read verbatim by the president? Figluzzi, I'm concerned about who is writing his script and his speeches. I mean, really, I expect... Then later on, Brian Williams said, we have another expert. Yes, sir, what have you seen? Well, I don't know if you've been looking very closely, but if you look really closely at President Trump, if you look really closely at his eyes, if you look at the very center of his eyes, there's a black dot. And then right around the black dot, there's another color. I think you'll find it's brown. And then if you go a little further out, you'll see a big circle of white surrounding the brown and the black. And I think what Trump is really saying with a very subtle way, maybe a dog whistle for the white supremacy movement, is that the white circle of his eye around the part of his colored eye and then around his black part of his eye, that shows that the big white circle is dominant over the people of color and the black people. It's very subtle. You have to look deep, but I'm just telling you, look, you'll notice it next time. You'll never be able to look at his face again without seeing the white circle dominating the brown and the black circle. I think that's all we need to know. 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. Do you think it's still worth it to go to college? Are you going to tell your kids they should go? Wait till you hear what the younger generation is thinking about it. We'll get you that in just a second. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson on The Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
This hoe thought he was really getting ready to be at home. After he heard his little funky ass shoulder, bitch, don't nobody give a your thoughts and prayers, Mitch. You, your wife, everything you stand for.
There you go. There's some of the protesters outside of Mitch McConnell's house, Senate Majority Leader. And what I just played for you got locked out of Twitter. Twitter locked accounts that belong to Mitch McConnell, to his reelection campaign, and to several conservatives who were reposting these videos to let people know what was going on. One demonstrator called for people to stab McConnell in the heart and for McConnell to break his raggedy neck, right? I played this for you. And the McConnell campaign says, you know, the social media platform is basically blaming the victim. So, because here they are trying to say, look what happened at Mitch's house. And they shut down their Twitter feeds for reposting what had already been tweeted. Wow. But remember, no hypocrisy. Everything's fine. Nothing to worry about here. Hey, are your children getting ready for college? Or maybe they've already gone. Or maybe they're a long way off. But here's the question. Do you think that college is now worth it? Because more and more younger people are saying it's not. 49% of young millennials say that their degree was very or somewhat important to their current job, which means More said it wasn't. Wow. You've got the younger generation saying, I might not go this way. I don't want the debt. I don't want the time away. I don't even know if my degree is going to help me get that much better of a job. The average student that takes on debt leaves college with about $37,000 of debt. That's up more than 10 grand from 10 years ago. Wow. And just over 1 in 4 young millennials say they are delaying college due to the cost. It's Market Watch and TD Ameritrade. And so more and more are saying it's just not worth it. I can do other things. And I agree that college is not what it used to be. I think with online learning, with vocational schools, with community college, you can do a lot that you don't really need college for. But will businesses and employers catch up and realize you don't have to have a college degree to do most jobs in America, and maybe learning on the job is better? What do you think? My name is Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. Lots of ways for you to be a part of the broadcast. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on. 844-DIG-CHAD, and everybody can hear what you have to say. TheChatShow.com online. And so the news is coming out that President Trump and Melania, they're going to El Paso, and they arrived at the University Medical Center of El Paso just a little while ago, visiting survivors. Here's what AP said. The presidential motorcade arrived at the hospital under tight security. Law enforcement officers toted long guns, and some had riot gear. It's very important. A rally protest to fight white supremacy and demand gun control was planned. Some Democrats and residents of El Paso say Trump's fiery rhetoric has fostered the kind of anti-immigrant hatred that could have contributed to Saturday's attack. The suspected gunman apparently wrote an anti-Hispanic rant before the attack. Speaking to several hundred people, Democratic presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke said immigrants had made El Paso one of the safest cities in America before Saturday's shooting. See? And then you look at some of the headlines before the visit. Trump to visit El Paso and Dayton, testing his ability to heal. That's Wall Street Journal. President facing criticism from local officials over his rhetoric and stance on guns. After the shootings, Trump reins in his attacks. For now. Dun, dun, dun. That's Reuters. Then we have the AP. Gun reform urged in Ohio as Texas Democrats shun Trump visit. Okay, well, let's talk about that for a second, and then we'll get into this whole thing about whether Trump has anti-immigrant rhetoric or whether he has anti-illegal alien rhetoric, and whether he's a racist or not, okay? Like I said, look, there are racists in America. There are white racists, there are black racists, there are Hispanic racists, there are Asian racists. Thankfully, there are fewer and fewer of them in this country, and we've come a tremendously long way from the founding, through slavery, through Jim Crow, to where we are now. And it's a very, very tiny percentage of people who think like this. And out of a nation of over 300 million people, every once in a while, you're going to get a crazy person doing something like this. And it's virtually impossible to stop. It really is. And we don't want to hear that, but it's true. And so now we're going to have gun control, more gun control laws, right? We're going to try and do this so-called assault rifle ban again. You know, the AR-15, according to different experts, depending on who you talk to, and I know anecdotally from people, friends of mine who have them, one of the best home defense weapons. Now, I have a shotgun for home defense. Other people like the AR-15 because the AR-15 is more accurate than a handgun, can shoot more rapidly than I can shoot with my shotgun. That's true. Gives you more rounds in case you miss. And people, what do you need 15 rounds for anyway? Okay, let me just paint a scenario for you. You're at home and 3 people break into your house and it's dark. And they've all got guns. Would you like to have 6 rounds or would you like to have 15? I'll take the 15, thank you. Your adrenaline is going crazy. It's dark. They're moving. You're not standing at a gun range with a stationary target in a well-lit area with nobody trying to kill you. It's a lot harder to hit a target when people are shooting back at you and it's moving and it's the middle of the night and you're afraid they're going to kill you and your family. Yeah, I'll take the 15, please, and maybe a couple extra magazines just in case. How about that? But no. You don't need that. Nobody needs that. So let's have the criminals be better prepared than you. Well, hey, we could at least agree on the red flag rules, can't we? I mean, red flag. All right, let's talk about this. Red flag gun control bills. MSN.com. These bills are picking up momentum with the Republicans in Congress. Congressional Republicans under intense pressure to respond to this weekend's massacres, coalescing around legislation. So what they want is to allow law enforcement to take guns from people who are in imminent danger. How do you know that? Well, see, it would be people referred by their family and friends, and then a judge would decide what would be the due process. Well, that's still up for debate. We don't know exact. In Ohio, Governor Mike DeWine was shouted down on Sunday by mourners, shouting that he do something. So he says they're right. We must do something. And he wants red flag powers for different states, and he wants to expand background checks. By the way, there's a big myth here that background checks have stopped people from buying guns. They haven't. There's some great research on that, on how people who are criminals that want to buy guns regardless of background checks. But it makes people feel better. And, hey, that's what really counts here is your emotions. Representative Michael R. Turner, Republican in Dayton, said this: I will support legislation that prevents the sale of military-style weapons to civilians, a magazine limit, and red flag legislation. The carnage these military-style weapons are able to produce when available to the wrong people is intolerable. Okay, let's take it one at a time. Military-style, what exactly is that? Well, you know, an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. There are lots of different semi-automatic rifles that people use to hunt, target practice, and for home defense. All those should be gone? Well, no, only the ones that look scary. You know, the assault ones. Oh, military style. Because our military has this little flip that you can do to turn semi-automatic into fully automatic. That's a military style rifle. By the way, you know what else is a military style weapon? A 9mm sidearm handgun. So should we not have that military style weapon? You know what else is a military weapon? A knife is part of what the military has for, you know, all kinds of things when you're in the military. Nope. How about fully automatic? We don't have that except under extreme regulation right now. But we're just going to call that. That's going to solve everything. All right, so let's go to the red flag laws. Alan Dershowitz, writing in the Wall Street Journal today. And it's good stuff. He is not a conservative, all right? And he says, look, you got to be careful if you're going to start taking away people's rights based on a prediction of future crime. Red flag. He says, I've studied and taught and written for half a century about the difficulties of predicting violence. Research shows any group of people identified as a future violent criminal, they'll contain many more false positives, people who will not become violent, than those who will, the true positives. And so the more true positives you get, it means you got a lot more false positives. And these kind of groupings fail to identify many future violent criminals who are not in the grouping. So we don't have the predictive tools necessary yet to really get the people who are going to be criminals without grabbing up a lot of people who aren't and taking their rights away too. So how many law-abiding people are we prepared to deprive of a constitutional right to own guns for self-defense to prevent even one mass shooting? And of course, the left will say as many as it takes, baby. I mean, because we'd like to just ban all the guns. Of course, then only the criminals will have the guns. You realize the Dayton shooter, the Dayton killer, was tweeting out pro-gun control messages after El Paso before he did his thing. Because the criminals don't want you to have guns because they don't want people shooting back at them. Wow. So back to Alan Dershowitz. Can the government deprive a citizen of a constitutional right based on a prediction? And if the government can take your gun rights based on a prediction today, what will stop it from taking your liberty based on a prediction tomorrow? In fact, we already do with bail. If we predict that you are too dangerous to let back out even before you've been proven guilty, we don't allow you out for bail because we're predicting that you'll commit another crime or we're predicting that you will run. Dershowitz points out, World War II, we detained more than 100,000 Japanese Americans based on predictions of sabotage. So does that mean red flag laws shouldn't be around at all? Well, Dershowitz says if we're going to do it, then they have to be limited to temporary gun confiscation pending a timely due process review. But when governments start taking away some rights in the interest of safety, all rights are at risk. Yeah. So again, it's real easy to say, do something, do something. And what will that something do? And what will be the unintended consequences? We tried a ban on so-called assault weapons for 10 years. It did absolutely nothing to decrease mass shootings or homicides. Right now, in this country, more people are killed by hands and fists every year than are killed by rifles, including so-called assault rifles. But the facts don't matter. It's about emotion. The facts just don't matter. Hey, I don't want anybody killed in a mass shooting or in any other kind of homicide. But taking away law-abiding Americans' Second Amendment rights aren't what's going to stop that from happening next. You realize it used to be easier to get guns in this country than it is now. And we have more of this problem. So do you think maybe it might have something to do with something else? Like, I don't know, maybe the isolation of some of our young men in this country? Maybe the frustration that they're having? Maybe they're depressed. Maybe they have some kind of a mental illness. Maybe they aren't able to connect with regular society. Maybe in their basement on some obscure dark website, and what you have to do in that room to matter. Look, this is something I learned a long time ago when I was getting my master's in counseling psychology. Virginia Satir said this. She's a family therapist. Brilliant. Used to be. I don't know if she's still alive even anymore. But she said, you need to imagine every client, and really every person you come in contact with, you need to imagine they have a sign around their neck that says, I want to count. See, it's an innate human need that we want to count. We want to matter. We want people to notice us. We don't want to be invisible. We can't be Mr. Cellophane from the musical Chicago. And we're going to find a way to count. And if we can't count by doing something great, then we'll count by doing something horrible. And so you're this lonely guy and you're in this crazy chat room, and the way to be noticed in the crazy chat room is to be the craziest dude in the room. And then you got to keep getting crazier and crazier, and you got people supporting you and yelling you and cheering you on. And then you've got to show that you really mean it. And so then you got to do it, and you see somebody else do it on TV, and they're getting all this notoriety, and they're getting so much attention. Everybody notices them now, man. They counted. They did something. And now maybe it's my turn. And that's why there's even a study that says these mass shootings are actually contagious. But remember, it's really just about the gun. Really? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. My name's Greg Knapp. I got to talk to you a little bit, too, about what the Dayton killer and the El Paso killer actually did have in common. It's coming up. Greg Knapp in for Chad on the Chad Show.
Plea deal this.
Mueller, arrest me. Chad will trade you 2 perjury charges for 1 collusion and throw in a reduced charge of obstruction for free.
Yeah, I'd do that.
For just listening to The Chad Benson Show.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp, and I am in for Chad Benson. This is The Chad Benson Show. You can jump online, and it's easy. It's thechadshow.com. You can call up at 844-DIG-CHAD. Yeah, we're talking about a lot of different angles on what happened in El Paso and Dayton and the presidents in El Paso, and he's tweeting out that people are misrepresenting what's going on with his meetings with the victims and all that kind of stuff. Well, did you know there were some similarities between the two killers? Because, you know, you would think if you're listening to the media, no. The guy in El Paso, he was a white racist. He was triggered by Trump's rhetoric. And the guy in Dayton, we don't know because he was killed. And now a few media outlets have briefly mentioned that the guy from Dayton seemed to be maybe a leftist. Oh, well. And actually, the guy in El Paso said in his manifesto that his beliefs predated President Trump. And in fact, there were some things President Trump was doing on immigration he didn't like increasing merit-based immigration. And he was mad at the Republicans for that, too. Oh, wait, it's getting a little bit more complicated. Oh, and then we find out, John Lott Jr. points out to us, that the El Paso killer and the Dayton mass shooter were also extreme and environmentalists. Oh, so was the guy in New Zealand. So the Dayton mass shooter was a registered Democrat, self-described leftist, hated Donald Trump, had a strong proponent of more gun control. Yeah, he doesn't want you to be able to shoot back, right? And then the El Paso killer had extreme environmentalism that was part of the basis for his anti-immigrant views. Quote, "Our lifestyle is destroying the environment of our country. The dissemination of the environment is creating a massive burden for future generations. Corporations are heading the destruction of our environment by shamelessly over-harvesting resources. This has been a problem for decades. If we can't get rid of enough people, then our way of life can become more sustainable." So if we can get rid of enough people, so he's got to get rid of enough people. And you know, part of his manifesto was about how much the increase in the population is coming from the type of people that immigrate to this country. But, you can't talk about that. New Zealand, the killer there also wrote, the environment is being destroyed by overpopulation. And we Europeans are one of the groups that are not overpopulating the world. The El Paso killer opposed all immigration and was upset with Trump for advocating merit-based immigration. Quote, "Recently, the Senate under a Republican administration has greatly increased the number of foreign workers that will take American jobs. Remember, both Democrats and Republicans support immigration and work visas." The Dayton killer, self-described leftist, and he wrote on Twitter, "I want socialism, and I'll not wait for the idiots to finally come around to understanding." And there's more on him we'll get to in a minute, but we also had, John Lott Jr. points out that Jennifer Rubin on Sunday in the Washington Post said, "The facts indicate white nationalists are responsible for more deaths than Islamic fundamentalist-inspired killings under this president." But here are some facts from public mass shooting. Since 1998, 58% of these killers have been white, but 64% of the population is white. Middle Easterners, the most overrepresented among mass public shooters. They're about 1% of the U.S. population, 8% of mass public shooters. Blacks, Asians, and American Indians are also overrepresented. Hispanics are the most underrepresented. They commit mass public shootings at a rate that's a little more than a third of their share of the population. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name is Greg Knapp, in for Chad. How you doing? Hey, you can find out more about me, GregoryBKnapp.com. Gregory, B as in boy, Knapp.com. I got a free gift for you there as well. I got some fun stories here before we get back into what's going on in El Paso and in Dayton. And I've actually got a great story coming out of El Paso with a young boy who has started an El Paso challenge. Great stuff, so hang in for that. First, though, the Democrats are still trying to figure out who they're going to run against Trump. And so they're whittling down the primary challengers. And there's a new poll out by Boston Globe, Suffolk University, of likely New Hampshire primary voters. And, it's kind of what you expect. They got Biden in first place, then Bernie, then Elizabeth Warren, then Kamala Harris. But there are 7 Democrats who did not get a single survey respondent to declare them their top primary choice. 500 likely Democratic voters in New Hampshire, and 7 of these candidates couldn't get a single one of those people to say, that's my guy or that's my woman. So who are they? Well, let's see. We got New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, former Alaska Senator Mike Gravel, Washington Governor Jay Inslee, Miramar, Florida Mayor Wayne Messam, Massachusetts Representative Seth Moulton, Ohio Representative Tim Ryan, and former Pennsylvania Representative Joe Sestak. Couldn't get a single person to say, that's my guy. Oh, maybe it's time. You might want to start looking at other opportunities. Just might be something you're looking at. Have you been stressed lately? Maybe stressed at work, maybe stressed at home, but there's a little stress in your life. What should you do? Well, a lot of the gurus will tell you a little mindfulness, maybe a little meditation, maybe use a mindfulness app. So they did a little study. This is from studyfinds.org. The study was at University College London and the University of Bath, and they let people either use they assigned them, they didn't just let them, either use a smartphone app for mindfulness training, or they used a smartphone app to play a game like Tetris to see which one reduced stress better. Yep, sure enough. Playing a game like Tetris on your smartphone. It's not what they were expecting, I think. 2 experiments. Okay, so first, you either completed it. Everybody completed a 15-minute math test. That's to increase the stress. Then given either a smartphone game or a mindfulness app or a fidget spinner for 10 minutes. The people who played the game reported feeling more energized and less tired. The other 2 groups reported feeling more lethargic. Okay, then they tried it again. Separate group. They had to play a shape-fitting smartphone game or use a mindfulness app after returning home from work every day for 5 days. And the people who played the game felt significantly more relaxed and in control at the end of the week compared to the meditation app users. And it was even worse. The people who were completing a beginner's course on a popular mindfulness app actually scored worse on the relaxation ratings throughout the week. It was like that scene in WKRP in Cincinnati where Johnny Fever and Venus Flytrap were doing the little study where they were drinking and then testing their reflexes. And as Johnny Fever got drunker, his reflexes were better. It's one of those types of deals. Doing that. Greg, how old are you? I'm sorry, man. That was one of my favorite shows. So as they were learning how to meditate, they actually were becoming more stressed. All right. Hey, it happens. What are you going to do? And how about this one? A man in England, a lot of stories out of England today, is being denied a new passport because of his last name. Huh? Well, his last name, he changed his last name a while back. He's 33 years old. His name used to just be Kennard. Kenny Kennard. And he changed his name using what they call a deed poll in 2016. He got his driver's license under it. He got a passport under it. And, oh no, you already had a passport. Sorry. But he got his driver's license under the new name. The new name is Kenny Foo Kennard. And so if you look at the Foo and then the K after it, you could easily say it in a way that wouldn't be appropriate for radio. So when his passport expired under the old name and he applied for it under the new name, denied because his name may cause offense. So he's really ticked, and he wants his passport under his new name because he really likes that name. And it does bring up a kind of an interesting question. Should the government be able to deny you a document that identifies you because they don't like your name? This is the guy's legal name now. He's got a driver's license this way. I mean, you could have tried to stop him from changing his name earlier, but this is his name now. Shouldn't you be allowed to have that name? Oh, man, it reminds me of the place I used to live. One day, there was a new Chinese restaurant. There were new immigrants, great people. They didn't quite understand the language yet, and they called their restaurant, it was Fu King. I'm not making it up, with a little dash in the middle, because, that's what they wanted. Sign did not last. We had to explain people what exactly. But this guy knows, and he's doing it on purpose. Shouldn't he be allowed to if he wants to? Now some good news out of El Paso, because we all need some. All right. On Sunday, Rose Gandaria posted a photo of her son explaining his new El Paso challenge. Now, his name is Ruben Martinez. He's only 11 years old. And so he's starting this hashtag El Paso challenge. Check it out on social media. Hashtag El Paso challenge. He's a sixth grader. And here's his challenge. He says, I'm challenging everybody in the city. Of course, it's expanding beyond El Paso now. But he says, I'm encouraging everyone in the city to do at least 20 good deeds in honor of the lives lost on Saturday. And be kind to each other all day, every day, all night, every night. And he gave some examples. Random acts of kindness you could do. Mow someone's lawn. Visit a nursing home. Pay for someone's lunch or dinner. Donate to families in need. Write someone a letter. Tell them how great they are. That's something really cool I heard from Sean Aker. He wrote The Happiness Advantage. And he says, every time you open your email box to check your email, write one of your contacts an email either thanking them for something or praising them for something. And it will make you happier. And it's going to grow your relationships with your contact list, too. It's really cool. Try it. I mean, you just open your contact list when you open your email box, and you just start at A, and you work your way all the way down one at a time every time you open your email box. So anyway, so he's saying the same thing here. Write somebody a nice note. Take flowers to someone in the hospital. Leave $1 on the vending machine for the next person. Buy somebody's lunch. Whatever. And he doesn't just talk about it. His mom says he does it. He says ever since he was really little, we always pay for someone's dinner at a restaurant once a month. We try to help homeless people. And he's doing it now, too. He said the first night of this challenge, he took dinner to first responders. The next day, he passed out candy outside a restaurant and held the door for people. See, it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. Tuesday night, he took roses to the Del Sol Hospital and passed them out to families waiting in the ICU. He gave roses to the doctors and nurses at the University Medical Center ER, where some of the victims of the shooting were taken, and on and on. Will you take the El Paso challenge? That's that's the kind of positive change that I think we're going to need to really heal the nation's moral character. Because we've been defining deviancy down for a long time, Patrick Moynihan said, and he's right. And we've had the breakdown of the family, and we've had the breakdown of a lot of our social morals. And how are you going to start turning it around? You're not going to turn it around with more rhetoric from both sides. You're not going to turn it around with a new law. You're going to turn it around with people being kind to each other. You really are. So God bless them, man. Way to go, Ruben. I love it. What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board the program. And we were talking a little bit about the Dayton attacker and just talking about the difference between the way the media has covered El Paso and Dayton and more of what we've learned, and even some of the media that's reported what the Dayton attacker had put in his Twitter feed have really tried to downplay it and say, well, you're sure El Paso was because of Trump, but Dayton wasn't because of lefties. And I reject the whole idea that somehow Trump's responsible for the person who pulled the trigger is responsible. Just like I didn't say Bernie Sanders was responsible for his supporter that shot Representative Scalise at the Republican baseball diamond either. The attempted killer was responsible for that. But here's the stuff we're learning about the Dayton, Ohio shooter. Hardcore leftist, pro-Elizabeth Warren, pro-Bernie Sanders, pro-Antifa, pro-Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's concentration camp rhetoric, against ICE, pro-gun control. This is all stuff out of his Twitter feed. The Daily Wire has a piece on this. He identified himself as a leftist on Twitter. Now, CNN did run a segment on this yesterday morning, calling the Dayton Killer's Twitter account confusing, saying it was very left-leaning, pro-Antifa, anti-police, seemingly supportive of progressive candidates in the Democratic Party. And the shooter retweeted support for gun control after the El Paso shooting. That's confusing. No, it's not confusing. The criminals want more gun control laws because it'll be easier to kill us. In fact, the Dayton Killer promoted multiple tweets from different chapters of the Democratic Socialists of America. Of course, that's the far-left party that Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders belong to. The killer made comments stating that he wanted socialism imposed and was not willing to wait for people to come around to his way of thinking. By the way, the El Paso attacker hated both Democrats and Republicans. And yet, somehow, it's all President Trump's fault. Do you agree? 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Show. 844-DIG-CHAD. Get you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD. You can go to thechadshow.com. How about a robot tail? Wait, what? Okay, there's this new idea coming out of Japan, and it's that you would wear a robot tail for balance. You mean like a animal? Like a monkey? Yes, like a monkey. Like they use that for balance, like a kangaroo. When the kangaroo jumps really fast and you can see the tail bouncing for counterbalancing what you do. I don't need a tail. Well, it's for people who are either elderly and having trouble balancing, and for people who are doing a lot of manual labor and lifting heavy things. You know how sometimes that makes you lose your balance or at least get in a bad body posture. This could help you. So I was thinking this is kind of cool because my dad is getting, he's in his mid-80s. He's got Parkinson's, and he's losing balance sometimes. And it's worrying me. And he's having trouble sometimes walking, and you kind of have to, be next to him and help him out. And wouldn't it be cool if Dad could just put on the old robot tail, and now he's back in business? Couldn't he just use a cane or a walker? Yeah, but who wants to? That's so 2010. All right? We're about to hit 2020 here, and we need some robot tails. So here's what it would do is you strap it around your waist, and it's matched to your weight and your height, and you can either put in or take out little vertebrae in the tail, and there are little motors, I guess is what you would call it, right? They call them artificial muscles. There are artificial muscles inside the tail that control the movement by contracting and expanding the tail. So as you're moving, it's contracting and expanding to counterbalance whatever you're doing and making it easier for you to maintain your balance. They really think it's going to help people who have trouble balancing, either elderly people or people using some kind of physical labor. So here's my question, though. Okay, let's say they get this thing perfected and it works really, really well. And you're 85 years old. Do you want to go for a walk with a robot tail strapped around your waist? That's going to take some getting used to, isn't it? I mean, I could see wanting to do it kind of to be a conversation starter. But if I'm going to be going on a walk, maybe I'm walking through the mall and I'm with my grandkids, do I want my robot tail on? Or I don't, I'm just trying to envision this. But, you could turn it into a positive, that you're the cool grandpa who has a robot tail. And maybe if enough people start wearing the robot tail, then there won't be any kind of a stigma to it. But I also think canes are kind of cool. I'm not a walker guy. I really don't ever want to have a walker in my life. But if I have to use a cane one day and it's a really cool looking cane, I used to love my grandpa's cane. He had this really nice, polished, dark wood cane with a gold handle on it. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I didn't realize my grandpa needed it because he couldn't walk as well anymore. I just thought it was cool. But now, maybe my grandkid will want grandpa's robot tail. We'll keep you up to date on it. And how about this one from the researchers? Arizona State researchers. Research shows that these kind of mass shootings we've had in El Paso and Dayton, they usually occur in clusters. In fact, they're contagious. Why? Well, the study found the best reason for it: intensive media coverage. That's what I was talking about earlier, man. If you're one of those guys that is on the edge and you see the media coverage and you see the person getting their name in the paper, on TV, on the radio, it's why I don't mention these people's names anymore. I don't want to give them any publicity. I mean, I understand we have to talk about it, but you don't want to do things that glorify the killer, that let his name be known. It's what we were talking about earlier. Everybody wants to count, and if you can't count for something good, then you may as well count for something bad because you want to be counted. The worst thing is to be invisible, so I'd rather be in trouble, even go to prison, maybe even be killed, than to live the rest of my life invisible. And so now they have the study to back it up. Oh, remember Brett Kavanaugh? Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh? You realize he's been a Supreme Court Justice for almost a year now? And the Wall Street Journal has a piece here today. The Democrats are still trying to get him off of the bench. So now you've got a couple Democrats in the Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler and Hank Johnson. They're asking the National Archives to produce files going back 18 years. Now, remember, they'd already turned over thousands of pages of documents for Brett Kavanaugh to be confirmed. And now they want thousands more dating back 18 years, including emails sent to or received by Kavanaugh, including emails where he only got carbon copy or blind carbon copy on. He was the staff secretary and managed the paper. These people are nuts. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show.
This is The Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Show. We got lots to get into. I want to talk about what the media and the Democrats and the far left and the celebrities are trying to do with Trump. It's nothing new, but they've used these mass killings to try to do it more. We'll hit that for sure. I've got a lot of audio for you on that. And I've also got an update on the Manzillion. Have you been following this story? It's been going on for over a year in Canada. It's a trans woman who has not undergone the sex change, so she still has the male genitalia. And she was calling up salons, female salons that did waxing for women down there, and said he wanted not the Brazilian, but basically the Manzillion. And when they refused to do it to his male genitalia, then he said it was discrimination, and he sued. What? But it's different because... No, it's not different. I'm a woman. I feel like a woman. But you have the male genitalia, and our women aren't trained to do that, first of all. And a lot of our women don't want to do that. Well, that's discrimination. So I got an update on what's going on with that story. And then a really good story, 6-year-old boy and the T-shirt that he got for the first day of school, and the T-shirt is going viral. We'll tell you why. Just lots of good stuff to talk about today on the program. 844-DIG-CHAD to get you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD. You can go online to thechadshow.com. Lots of ways to be part of the broadcast. So I want to start with how the media is redefining racism. Jazz Shaw over at Hot Air, I thought, had a good take on this. That, yeah, the media is redefining racism. Now, look, if you don't know me, I know I'm a guest host. I voted for President Trump because my alternative was Hillary Clinton. It's that simple. Well, what did you think about President Trump's moral character? I don't think it's very good. I think he's been married way too many times. I don't like some of the things that he says about women. I don't like some of the things that he's tweeted. There's a lot of things I don't like. Hillary Clinton has horrible moral character. She ran the Bimbo Eruptions war room. Are you kidding me? You seen what this woman has said and done in her life? So neither one had stellar moral character. But more importantly, for me, I vote for the president that I think has the best policies. Because I'm not voting for my preacher. I'm not voting for, and yes, I agree, character counts. But I think what counts even more than character is his policies. You could have the best character in the world and have crazy socialist policies, and I don't want you to be my president. So then, if you look at the policies, it wasn't even close. Trump's policies are way better than Hillary Clinton's policies. That doesn't mean that I like everything that Trump says and I like everything that he tweets. But this idea that he is absolutely a racist, it's not even questioned anymore in most of the mainstream media. They say it as if it's a fact instead of an opinion. And anytime he challenges anybody who happens to be darker than white, then it's not because he disagrees with them on policy. It has to be because he's racist. And I experienced that. I've been in radio a long time. When President Clinton was president and I ripped his policies and attacked him over his policies, I wasn't called a racist. But when President Obama became president and I ripped him because of his policies, all of a sudden I'm a racist. What? And see, people get tired of that. After a while, when you know you're not a racist and you're called a racist simply because you disagree with somebody who happens to be a darker skin color than you, it really starts to tick you off after a while. And you know, eventually, shut up, you're a racist isn't a very good argument. Especially when nothing you said was racist. See, President Trump going after Elijah Cummings' home district, saying that it was rat-infested and dangerous, very similar to what Elijah Cummings said about his own district years ago, doesn't make President Trump a racist. Bernie Sanders went to that district and did a tour of it and said in front of an audience it was like he was in the third world. That's how poor and garbage-filled and rat-infested it was. The Baltimore Sun did an editorial saying almost the same thing, but only Trump saying it means he's a racist. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can call Trump every name of the book. When he fights back and attacks her for something, it's simply because she's a person of color. And I think most people understand this game. And they're tired of it. And it's what Jazz Shaw was saying here with the media redefines racism. We hear it on a daily basis like a drumbeat that never ends. They want to create a perception that will then become a reality. That Trump equals racism. So a political attack on anyone who isn't white, racist. Enforce the laws we have on the books, racist. Build a wall, you're hate-filled. Now remember, the Democrats agreed to a law. They passed a law to build a wall during George W. Bush's term. And that was fine because that was enforcing the law. Now, if you're in favor of actually building the wall, you're a hate-filled racist xenophobe. And you're basically calling for genocide. So when it comes to saying, okay, well, wait a second, you're saying President Trump is a racist. What's your proof? Well, here's what you get. Racial and ethnic polarization has been a hallmark of Trump's political rise and is central to his reelection. He's warned of an invasion at the southern border, posted racist tweets about 4 women of color in Congress, and attacked Democratic Representative Elijah Cummings' largely black district as a rat and rodent-infested mess. So, as Josh Shaw says, let's look at them one by one. Warned of an invasion at the southern border? Well, here's what he said. At this very moment, large, well-organized caravans of migrants are marching towards our southern border. Some people call it an invasion. It's like an invasion. They have violently overrun the Mexican border. You saw that 2 days ago. These are tough people in many cases. A lot of young men, strong men, and a lot of men that maybe we don't want in our country. But again, we'll find that out through the legal process. That's the invasion rhetoric. Just want you to know, that's the invasion rhetoric. When there were thousands, tens of thousands in these caravans coming across illegally, he said, some people call it an invasion. It's like an invasion. It is like an invasion. Well, but for some people, that means you should kill people. For who? Crazy people? And Trump knows who he's talking to. BS. He's talking about those migrant caravans. Wave after wave of them. By the way, we've a couple 100,000 illegal aliens over the few months of that. When you look at the numbers for the year, I just saw something else about that earlier today on the numbers, and they were huge. That doesn't mean you want to kill people. And they talk about, I had these racist tweets regarding 4 women of color in Congress. How are they racist? Did he talk about their race even once? Well, you knew what he meant. No, you don't. You know what you mean, and you're projecting on him. So when he goes after Nancy Pelosi, when he goes after Bernie Sanders, when he goes after Chuck Schumer, when he goes after Elizabeth Warren, all white, Elizabeth Warren's Native American. Oh, right, exactly. Right. So when he does that, he's not racist. But Jeb Bush, low energy Jeb, no. But if he goes after anybody who's darker than him, then he's a racist. Oh, don't forget Charlotte, Greg. What about Charlotte? Charlottesville. Okay, let's talk about Charlottesville for a second. I went back and looked this up. The quote from Charlottesville, August 15, 2017, at the presser, when he said, very fine people on both sides. What the media has done is they've taken that quote and said that what he meant was there were very fine Nazis and KKK members, and there were very fine people on the other side. No. Here's the quote. Now, remember, what was going on here was this had originally started in Charlottesville. People were going to go there to protest tearing down the statue of Robert E. Lee and renaming the park. Then Antifa said they were going to counter-protest, and then these crazy, awful Nazis and KKK people decided they were going to show up too. So here's what Trump actually said, quote, you also had some very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. But he wasn't done. Then he said this, quote, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists. They should be condemned totally. He specifically said right in the same breath, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists. They should be condemned totally. And yet they still say, well, look at Charlottesville. Look what he said there. They're lying to you. And they're hoping that if they tell the lie often enough and long enough, you'll believe it. So the liberals, the media, the Democrats, the celebrities, I know I keep repeating myself, they want to convince you, Trump, Republicans, conservatives, anything along those lines, they're racist. So don't vote for them, of course. Now, look, unfortunately, racism exists. There's no doubt about it. There are white racists and black racists and Hispanic racists and Asian racists. There's no doubt about it. But thank God there's fewer of them in this country every year. But the idea that somehow the Republicans are racist, which is what the mainstream media and the leftists are trying to push, couldn't be further from the truth. Republicans are the party of Lincoln. The conservatives and constitutionalists and Republicans, they all believe in the founding documents that we were all created equal. The antithesis of racism. In fact, we're the ones that say skin color should not matter and everyone should be treated exactly the same. The liberals are the ones who say everything should be determined by skin color. That's racism. But hey, they're winning. They're doing a great job of convincing the mainstream media that Trump and the Republicans are racist. Certainly you don't want to be that. I mean, that's like the worst thing you can call anybody in our country And so certainly you wouldn't want to admit that you are, and you wouldn't want to vote that way. And they're really winning with the younger generation, because it takes a while for people to go out in the world and be mugged by reality and realize that what the Democrats and the socialists are pushing to you is a bunch of nonsense. And the reason that you're still going to see Trump's poll numbers be low is because people are afraid to say, hey, I'm still going to vote for Trump, because they're afraid they're going to be called every name in the book and they're going to be called deplorables again. And they're doing a good job of it. They're doing a great job of it. But remember, they're the party of love. They're the party of tolerance. They're the party of openness, while they're calling you every name in the book, simply because you disagree with them, simply because you think President Trump's policies are better than any of the Democrats running. What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. I got some great audio for you. You won't believe what one former FBI guy is saying that Trump is doing with the flags at half-staff. Morning Joe host Mika Brzezinski saying Trump seems to want white nationalist terror attacks. Cory Booker on, we've got a Democratic rep saying Mitch McConnell has caused people to die. We got all this. But remember, Trump's rhetoric is the bad stuff. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Show.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. You can jump in at 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD, online, thechadshow.com. And yeah, we're talking a lot about the fallout of what's been happening from El Paso and Dayton. And the coverage is just insane. And I'm not using that term loosely, because I take you to Brian Williams. You remember him, right? Fired for lying, but back on MSNBC. Yes, he's still on the air. And he had on a guest who is a former FBI guy, and his name is Frank Figliuzzi. And Frank Figliuzzi knows a thing or two about these white supremacist nationalists. And he's saying that he doesn't think the Trump people are really clued into this enough. Let's listen to cut 9, please.
The president's either getting really good advice and rejecting it, or he's getting really bad advice. And I'll give you an example of that. We have to understand the adversary and the threat we're dealing with. And if we don't understand how they think, we'll never understand how to counter them. So it's the little things and language and messaging that matters.
Okay, well, what do you mean? Well, he gives you, for instance, in cut 10.
The president said that we will fly our flags at half-mast until August 8th. That's 8/8. Now, I'm not going to imply that he did this deliberately, but I am using it as an example of the ignorance of the adversary that's being demonstrated by the White House. The numbers 8/8 are very significant in neo-Nazi and white supremacy movement. Oh, no. Why? Because the letter H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. And to them, the numbers 8/8 together stand for Heil Hitler. So we're going to be raising the flag back up at dusk on 8/8.
What? Come on. I can't make this up. So, either his people are giving him bad advice or they don't know enough, or maybe he's doing enough. I'm not implying he's doing it on purpose, but, 8th letter of the alphabet, H, Heil Hitler, we're putting it up there. Obviously, Trump is... Are you insane? And instead of Brian Williams saying that, dude, are you being serious right now? Are you punking me? Is Ashton Kutcher back there? Do you write for The Onion? No, instead of any of that, he's like, as chilling as that is to hear, as chilling as that is to hear, you're saying it's possible that someone who knows better is authoring or editing the words that show up and are read verbatim by the president? Figliuzzi answers, I'm concerned about who is writing his script and his speeches. Well, I'm concerned about you a little bit, dude. You really think that President Trump or anybody in the White House is going to have the flags raised back up on 8-8 because 8 equals H, which equals HH, which equals high hill. Come on, man. But you know what else I've noticed? I mean, I understand that President Trump is an avid bowler, and you know in bowling, what do you do? You take a black ball and you knock down the white pin. Oh wait, that wouldn't work. Okay, well, he likes billiards, and in billiards, you take the white ball and you knock in all the colored balls, saving the black ball for last, and then you dominate the black ball to win the game. So obviously, that's Trump's racist card that he's showing the white nationalists. Okay. You don't even need to make things up. You just report what's happening. We got more audio we'll get to, but I also have a good, positive story for you from a little 6-year-old boy and the Canadian who wants the manzillion. We've got an update on that story. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson on The Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Hey, my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. We'll get back to some of this crazy audio we have on the whole Trump and Dayton and El Paso and the Democrats and the media. We'll get to all that back in a second. But I got this good story I want to get to you. And it started out with a Facebook post. It's a 6-year-old boy, and he's got his custom T-shirt that his mom made for him. And here's what she says. She said, I got to brag on my son. I told him as a back-to-school gift, I'll make him any shirt he'd like. It could have anything. It could be basketball, football. Those are his favorites. And he thought for a while, and he said, will you please make me a shirt that says, I will be your friend for all the kids who need a friend and know that I'm there for them? Never underestimate your kid's heart for others. I love my sweet Blake. Hashtag stop bullying is what she did. And I got to be honest with you. And I said, this is cute little kid. He's got his shirt on that says, I will be your friend. It's this orange T-shirt with green lettering. He's already starting to sell them now and give some of the proceeds to a charity that he loves called the Real Life Center, local nonprofit. It's awesome. And I just got to tell you, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm too cynical, because the first thing I'm thinking is, did he really say that? The kid's 6 years old. Now, I'm not saying the kid isn't nice and kind and wants to help other people. I'm just trying to think back to when I was 6 years old. And I will grant you I'm not the nicest person in the world. Absolutely. I try my best and I'm trying to get better every day. But at 6 years old, here's my thing. Even at 6 years old, if I had been bullied and I wanted to help people, or if I was just a kid that really wanted to help people, I could see even saying, hey, Mom, I want a shirt that says I will be your friend. But I just can't see a kid saying to his mom, will you please make me a shirt that says I will be your friend for all the kids who need a friend to know that I am here for them? I hope it's true that that's what really happened. Am I the only one that's a tiny bit wondering if that's exactly what happened? I've just been burned too many times by these stories on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter that are so kind and so nice and they seem too good to be true. And then a few days later, I find out that it wasn't true. And so now I'm cynical. And I don't want to be cynical. I want to just believe this. I want to just get excited about this 6-year-old kid, just like I did with the kid that's doing the El Paso Challenge. I want to be excited about these young people who are looking to just help each other and lift each other up and be encouraging. That's what I like to do. I mean, if you look at anything that I do on Facebook or Twitter, all I do is I try to put out encouraging messages. It's part of what I do. I wrote this book called Go, How to Find and Pursue Your Passion and Purpose. I want to encourage people, lift people up, help them be everything they want to be. I want them to find out the purpose in their life and live the extraordinary life they dreamed about when they were kids, instead of, just ending up being assistant to the manager. Because, like Dwight on The Office is the only person that ever wanted to do that. But sometimes I get a little cynical. That's all I'm saying. So I hope that this is 100% true. It's at yahoo.com. What do you think? All right, back to what's been going on here, because we got the audio for you that just is amazing. Let's go to Nicole Wallace on her show on MSNBC. And remember, Nicole Wallace worked in the George W. Bush administration, but as she's been more and more on MSNBC, she's gone way out there. So she is talking, and the person that's on with her is saying, President Trump mentioned an infestation of immigrants. Well, actually, he talked about Democrats allowing illegals to come in, some of them bad, like an infestation, like MS-13. That's what he said. But the guest made it sound like he was saying all immigrants were an infestation. And then he said, what you do with an infestation? You exterminate it. So then she followed up by saying this. Nicole Wallace, cut 1.
The last Republican president fought for, sought, and it's not ideal, but had 44% of Latino vote. It was so politically powerful inside the last Republican administration. President Obama used the power of the presidency to try to pass comprehensive immigration reform with the Latino community, Latino leaders at the table. You now have a president, as you said, talking about exterminating Latinos.
It's not even...
Whoa. Here's the short version. Cut 2.
You now have a president, as you said, talking about exterminating Latinos.
It's not
right. In fact, he has never said that. And it took her a while, but today she came out and sort of apologized. Sort of. Well, yeah, here's her apology. I misspoke about Trump calling for an extermination of Latinos. My mistake was unintentional, and I'm sorry. Trump's constant assault on people of color and his use of the word invasion to describe the flow of immigrants is intentional and constant. Okay, no, there's no assault on people of color at all. And the word invasion, I think I found once. And by the way, as we mentioned, it was about him talking about the caravans that were coming with thousands of people in waves. Isn't that pretty much the definition of an invasion? I mean, if we're going to be accurate. No. So, and then we go to Morning Joe. Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough, his wife, Mika Brzezinski, said this. You have to ask the question, Joe, and I'll ask you. Isn't it okay to deduce that at this point, this is what he wants? And they were talking about the terror attacks in El Paso. What? Isn't it okay to deduce that at this point, this is what he wants? He is inciting hatred, inciting violence, inciting racism. If he doesn't unequivocally call it off and say this is wrong and we stand together against this and we're doing this, and this to help fight hate crimes. I mean, this is a president who seems to want these things to happen. How else can this be explained, she asked. Man, you got to be in a really weird place to really think the only explanation for President Trump wanting to enforce our law on the border, wanting to build a wall, fighting back when people call him and the police and ICE every name in the book, that the only reason he could possibly do that is he wants people to run down and shoot people and kill people. That's what Mika said. Then there's Cory Booker. Back in March, he said President Trump must condemn white supremacy. Now that he has, he was asked by CNN's Kate Bolden if he welcomed Trump's condemnation, and he said no. Because Trump didn't blame himself, then it was a catastrophic failure as a leader. Then we moved to Democratic Representative Ruben Gallego, Democrat, Arizona. He was on CNN with Anderson Cooper, and he was talking about Senator Mitch McConnell not passing what he calls common sense gun control. Listen to what he said about McConnell, cut 7.
The one thing that's very consistent about Mitch McConnell, he could care less about anybody in this country except for himself and his donors. And he is the Grim Reaper. It's because of his actions that he's caused so many deaths in this country by stopping common sense gun reform laws from getting to the floor.
Wow. No, not only is he accusing him of not caring about his own constituents and about the country, But then he calls him the Grim Reaper, and because of his actions, he's caused so many deaths in this country. So he's accusing him of killing people, or at least being responsible for the death of people, simply because Mitch McConnell was defending the Second Amendment. Your rights. But remember, the rhetoric it's all Trump's fault. This rhetoric is unbelievable. I mean, come on. I mean, for real. 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on the program. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. Oh, I've been telling you about this story. It's been around for about a year. It's been in Canada, so it hasn't gotten as much attention here. But it is an interesting story because it talks about discrimination and a special human rights law. So here's what happened. If you haven't been watching this story, there's a woman in Canada. She's a trans woman, but she hasn't had the sex change operation yet, so she still has all the male genitalia. So she says she feels like a woman, but she still has all the male parts. Well, what this Canadian trans woman did, her name is Jessica, she filed more than a dozen human rights complaints. What happened was she started calling up beauticians that offer waxing services. You know, the Brazilian, where you're just totally waxed down there. So these salons, many of them run out of these women's homes, were set up to do wax jobs on women with female genitalia. So he would call them up and ask them about this. Do you do the Brazilian? Yes. Okay, I want to come in and do an appointment. And then he would send a picture, or it'd get to the point where he explained that he had, the twig and berries, and that he wanted his berries waxed. Well, they're like, no, we can't do that. That's not what we do. Discrimination. That is not discrimination. There are certain things they do for female genitalia. You have male genitalia, and they don't do that for male genitalia. But this person wanted to force these women who didn't want to wax a man's berries to have to wax the berries. Why would you have a right to do that? Or shut down these people, or shake them down for some money? It's been going on for a year. The National Post. One day in March, a transgender woman messaged an esthetician after seeing a personal Facebook ad for waxing services. Hi there, where are you located? The woman asked. Clayton Heights, responded Shayla Poyer, who has worked at a local salon. Awesome. Do you do Brazilians? Not for men, sorry. The woman described herself as a digital entrepreneur, said the complaint is one of 15 she's filed, the transgender woman. And so it looks like this transgender woman is simply searching this out to shake people down. Now, the reason that I think you should care about this is what it's doing to these poor women who are running a business, and where they're having to be harassed and either hire lawyers or just cave in and settle so that they can go about running their business. And we're talking about several $1,000s here. So they're having some hearings, and even the courts in Canada are getting upset about this. But what's really amazing is that this isn't just thrown out. But now the court is actually starting to say to Yaniv, we'll call the trans woman, Yaniv, who's representing herself, that you're messing with us now, aren't you? And you're messing with these people. Even the Human Rights Tribunal is getting upset. I'll get you the rest of the details on this in just a second. 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD. And why I think this story does have implications for us here in the United States. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson on The Chad Benson Show.
need to fear. We promise we won't give you a noogie and make you cry Russia, Russia, Russia.
Who is the fearless leader?
Fui.
Fui, fui, and double fui.
What is your language? It is a family show, remember?
Fui to families too.
Nostrovia. This is Chad Benson.
And my name's Greg Knapp, filling in for Chad, and I'm trying to keep it a family-friendly show, but I'm talking about this story, so we're having to use some euphemisms for what we're waxing. So it's the Brazilian, but it's the manzillion, because the transgender woman calling still has the male parts. So we're talking about waxing the berries, and the transgender says it's discrimination that the salons that are focused on women and women genitalia for a wax job are discriminating for not doing the other one. And he's done this like 15 times. And he knows this is going to happen. And it seems like he's doing it purposefully to get some kind of a payday and maybe to get attention and maybe to be offended and maybe to force change in what the salons do. But how in the world does that have anything to do with treating people equally? They're ready. Look, you go in and get the sex change, dude. They will give you the Brazilian, but you haven't gotten the sex change. So now even the Human Rights Tribunal is getting a little upset. This is from the National Post. And look, the reason I bring this up, you don't think this can happen here? There are cities in America that have passed special anti-discrimination laws, including for gender and transgender. And so if somebody starts doing that here in one of those cities, will we have the situation we had with the florists and the bakers that were saying, hey, we can't do that for this particular event, and they're sued anyway for the gay marriage? How long before this will happen here? So the Human Rights Tribunal has heard these complaints, but even in Canada, the public's getting a little upset about it. So one of the tribunal members scolded Yaniv, the transgender, saying her behavior in pursuing case after case, even after the tribunal cautioned against wasteful, unnecessary duplication, has not been conducive to having the issue resolved on its merits and opens a valid question about the motives in filing so many complaints. Yeah, you think? You think? Also talked about it was improper that Yaniv was withdrawing complaints against some of her targets. You know why? They got free legal representation and said they were going to defend themselves. So Yaniv didn't want all that, just wanted the money, a settlement. But then we get to this. The tribunal member has refuted, though, that Yaniv's conduct is vexatious or that her complaints are frivolous. Instead said this, quote, waxing can be critical, gender-affirming care for transgender women. At the same time, it is a very intimate service that is sometimes performed by women who are themselves vulnerable. Yeah, you think? I mean, as a woman, you want this big person who says they feel like a woman but still has all the male parts to say, make sure you wax down there? The complaints raise a novel issue around the rights and obligations of transgender women and service providers in these circumstances. No, it doesn't. This is a cut and dry case. You got the male body parts and you want a female wax job. So when you get the female body parts, come back for the female wax job. This is common sense, but we don't have common sense anymore. And I know it's Canada, but don't tell me that it's not coming here. Well, guess what? It got a little weirder because Yaniv was arrested. What happened was there was a YouTube debate, and Yaniv was debating with an American trans woman. Evidently, some things went wrong. Yaniv got very upset and brandished a taser during the YouTube debate. Guess what? In Canada, it is not legal to own a taser. And according to Yaniv, about 3 minutes after the broadcast ended, I have RCMP, that's the Royal County Mounted Police, Royal Canada Mounted Police, showing up at my door and putting me into cuffs saying I have a prohibited weapon. Yeah, they found 2 tasers, bear mace, pepper spray. The pepper spray and the tasers are illegal and arrested. Oh, boy. We'll keep you up to date on that crazy story. Hey, thanks for having me along today. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad. This is the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.